Welcome back for the final part in this three-part video series on how I make 3D printed model cars. In part 1, we discussed 3D modeling and slicers. In part 2, we printed the parts, cleaned them, and primed them for paint. In this video, we will be painting and masking the car. It has been another 12 hours, and the primer is all dry. On this buggy-style car, we have some silver to paint first. We will paint the entire bottom, the rear wheel wells, and up the back, and the entire engine area, and the roof scoop, and the front grille. We will not worry about overspray because silver is easy to paint over with other colors, which in this case will be white. Rather than watching me paint for 5 minutes, I will time-lapse the painting. After about an hour in my drying machine, the silver is dried and ready to be masked. The masks are cut out of painter's tape using a Cricut vinyl cutting machine. The silver masks take two 12-inch strips of tape. The first one has already been cut, so I'm going to start the machine on the second cut. I will remove the excess tape from the first strip of tape. I will have a full tutorial on how to place the masks for those who purchase the masks with the do-it-yourself kits. But for this video, let's skip to the results. Okay, here is what the car looks like with the silver paint all masked up. These masks will stay on the car until after all airbrushing has been completed. The supports of the wing that were painted silver are also masked. The next step is to paint the windows black. Back at the paint booth and attached to the cup. Let's get the windows painted black. I'll try to minimize the overspray, but the trim on the car will be white, and white covers black pretty well, so I won't worry about overspray too much. 20 minutes in the dryer, and then we will mask the windows. Let's mask the windows for what is definitely the first time. The window masks are not wrinkled because I forgot to hit record when applying the masks and had to remove them and do it a second time on camera. And no, I did not just put the front window mask on twice because I put it on wrong the first time. Again, this is not a tutorial on how to apply these masks, but I will have another video of that. And no, I will not just reuse this footage without the time lapse. Who would be that lazy? All of the exposed car will now be painted white. This white will be the trim color. Back at the workbench, the white paint is dried, and we are ready to apply the trim masks. Again, there will be a full tutorial for that. But let's jump to the results. This is the car and wing with all the masks applied. Now we are ready to paint the decal. Up until this point, I had not decided what decal I wanted to paint. Now I have decided to do a nebula decal with blue and purple. All nebula decals get a black base paint. At this point, I could not decide if I wanted the primary color to be blue with purple accents or purple with blue accents. So I decided to make one of each. One quick item duplication glitch later, and we are ready to paint. Those of you who are not colorblind may be wondering why I am painting white clouds on the car. When painting vibrant colors over black, they just look like black that has been slightly tinted that color. So to make this blue and purple pop, I will first paint white under those colors. Now it's time to add some stars. Typically, when you are airbrushing, you want to allow the air to flow for a second after you have cut the paint in order to clear out the tip of the nozzle. Otherwise, when you start spraying again, it will splatter little drops everywhere. But if I lean into my bad habits as a shitty airbrush artist, I can leverage this effect to make stars. Another thing to remember is that all white on the car will next be painted the primary color. So these stars will become blue on the blue car and purple on the purple car. And we will bring in some more white stars at the end. After each coat of paint, I put the car into my drying machine for 5 to 10 minutes while I clean out the airbrush and prepare the next paint. Now I will be doing the primary color on the blue car. I might have accidentally forgot to hit record when painting the primary color on the purple car. But if you want, you can rewatch me paint the blue one and pretend it's purple. Now I am adding smaller white clouds near the borders of the primary color clouds. This will be where the accent colors come in. Now it's time to paint the blue accent color on the purple car. And back to purple for the accent on the blue car. While I have purple in the airbrush, I'm going to use it to fade between the purple and blue on the purple car. Now I will do the same with blue on the other car. Now we will add even smaller white clouds. These will be staying white. And finally, let's add some more white stars. These will be staying white. Times now I have mentioned my drying machine, and well, here it is. It is simply the cheapest food dehydrator on Amazon with 3 plastic food storage containers from the dollar store, cut, hot glued and duct taped together to make it tall enough to hold a car while on the cup. I also have many other lids and containers in different configurations to allow other things to fit into it. So typically when drying paint, I put it on the absolute lowest setting just to get a little warm air swirling around the part. The reason for this is at high temperatures, the glue on the tape starts to peel off, and you don't want that when you have more painting to do. You would not want the paint bleeding under the mask. But when you are ready to remove all the masks like I am right now, I turn the heat up to the max setting for the last few minutes of the dry to loosen up the tape. So now I'll quickly pull this out and start removing the masks while I heat up the other car. This is almost too hot to hold, but while this is nice and hot and the glue is loosened, I will immediately go for the masks that have given me the most trouble in the past. Sometimes when peeling up masks that are over many layers of paint, some of the layers of paint separate and come off with the masks. Because this decal has no masks and all the masks are only on the silver and the white trim, this is very low risk. Some of the parts that have given me the most problems in the past is the windows, the small protrusions on the front grille mask, and the small protrusions in the inside corners of the front fender trim masks. See a few places where the paint did start to bleed under the tape. This is probably because of how many drying cycles this decal requires. So all that heat and air did loosen the tape. I will touch these up with a paintbrush. Both cars have had the bleeds touched up and the details hand painted, which includes the headlights, tail lights, inside tail lights, parts of the engines painted red, and the spikes on the roof are black. They have been left to fully dry overnight and are ready for clear coat. For these Nebula decals, I like to use a pearlescent clear coat by the Alina's brand. This clear coat gives the entire car a little extra sparkle. I also have gloss and matte clear coats by the same brand. I will be using the gloss clear coat on these wheels, which also have the outsides hand-painted white and the insides airbrushed black. After spraying these, they will need at least 30 minutes to an hour before they can be handled, and I like to let them dry for 24 hours before packaging them up to ship. In one painting tutorial I saw online a few years ago, I heard the advice to soak all spray cans in hot water for 5 to 10 minutes before spraying them. This helps it spray smoother. This does not replace shaking. You should still shake the can for at least 1 minute, as the instructions say. But heating the can dramatically improves the smoothness and evenness of the spray. I do this for the primer as well. For the pearlescent spray, you really want to shake it well, as it contains small pearl beads in the spray. One time I did not shake well, and one side of the car had no pearls at all and the other had too many. I spent hours on that car just for it to end up in the trash and having to start over. Another issue I have ran into with this clear coat is moisture. If it is raining outside or looking like it might rain or looking like it might possibly one day rain, you might want to wait to spray. Any bit of moisture can cause orange peel. Also, don't spray too much. If you put it on too thick, it does this thing. I don't know what it is called, but it looks like fingers coming out from sharp corners and edges. Another great way to spend hours on a car to have it end up in the trash. Why are my tires in the dryer? They are not painted. Oh, by the way, it has been 24 hours and the cars are fully dry. Okay, back to the tires. It is now time to assemble the tires onto the rims. These can be a very, very tight fit depending on how my printer was feeling the day it extruded these out. And I have found that putting them in the dryer on max heat for a few minutes loosens them up and allows for easier insertion. Now at the workbench, let's work quickly while the tires are still soft. I have found that pushing the tire over the rim sometimes chips the paint on the edge of the rims. But if I push the rim into the tire, that never happens. These tire treads are directional, and they're printed in such a way that the nice edge is always the outside. The side that printed against the platform will have a texture. Alright, time for final assembly. The first car I did off camera. Now let's do the second. You can see that the V or arrow shape of the tread always points towards the back of the car from the underside. That is just how I remember the direction. Or you can think of it as looking like the letter V from the front of the car. I do not normally use glue because these are such a tight fit they never fall off on their own, but you can actually pry them off with a tool like the one on the bench or maybe a butter knife and then switch to another wheel. And that's it. All that's left is the glam shots.